Hello and welcome aboard my narrowboat for day 2 of my 3-day trip from Wigram's Turn Marina to Cropredy Marina on the South Oxford Canal. I'm doing 3 days of just about 4 hours each day. Most of yesterday, part 1, which if you haven't seen, I'll leave a link to that in the description below, was coming up through Knapton Locks, 9 locks in the flight, and I moored a little way above them, had a perfectly pleasant night's sleep, a good afternoon, just resting and reading, and was very lucky with the weather yesterday. Had all sorts of messages from friends saying, "Oh, I hope you didn't get hailed on." Well, no, it was mainly lovely sunshine, a little bit of rain, but mainly lovely sunshine. Today the forecast is generally overcast, tending a little more towards rain in the afternoon, and there was certainly rain when I woke up this morning, but right now, yes, a fair bit of cloud around, but the sun is out. It's dry, so I'm going to head off and make hay while the sun shines. It really was a glorious morning, and the birds were in fine voice. I fired up the engine and gently idled away from the mooring so as not to disturb the boats around me. Almost immediately another boat came past and the usual cordial greetings were exchanged. There was a very sharp bend directly ahead, so I took it with caution. Once I saw the way was clear, I could throttle up a little. I should be stopping today just before I get to the next set of locks, which I think is called the Claydon Lock Flight. I think there's about 6 or so locks. But just before that, just after bridge, let me see if I can remember this, it's something like bridge 138. I will consult my notes, but somewhere around there I will then stop for the afternoon and then do the final stretch down the lock flight into Cropredy tomorrow. And that will be a part 3 video, which once I've done it, I will leave a link to that in the description below. If there's no link to it now, it's because I haven't published it yet. With a countdown to bridge 138 in my head, I instantly started noting the numbers every time I went under one. That's the kind of tractor that Jeremy Clarkson would buy, I think. More power! And in the field immediately after the tractor, a unique way of avoiding the Canal and River Trust licence fee, although it does limit your cruising options somewhat. These nice trees reminded me of the Canal du Midi, which I travelled last year. I'll leave a link to those videos in the description below. "15 more to go, though as they're not equally spaced, it's a bit of a nonsense way to measure progress. You are very much in the middle of the countryside here. No big towns in this direction until you get to Banbury. What's brown and steaming and comes out of cows? The Isle of Wight Ferry. Yes, I know I've done that old joke before, but it's my favourite. And for overseas viewers, Cowes, with an E, is a town on the Isle of Wight. In the last video, I said canal boating is very much like Star Trek, but even so, I wasn't expecting a Borg cube to have landed in a field near Banbury. Phasers on stun, Mr. Riker. Look how low the water level is on this pound. Perhaps the forecast rain is much needed. Ah, perhaps this is why the Borg landed nearby. They wanted to try out a cone instead of a cube. Let's hope they like glamping. I always worry about sheep in the fields next to the canals because the woolly fools are much taken with falling in and then being unable to get out. So it was a relief to see this fencing along the edge of the field, keeping them safe from a watery end. I wag a bit like that when I get a cheese sandwich. I could do with a warehouse like that to put my project boat in. Perhaps I should move it to a farm instead of a boatyard. These geese were not happy with me disturbing their canal. And at this point I realised the prop was jammed with leaves. A quick blast of reverse usually does the trick. On the horizon, some distant earthworks. And what appear to be some UFOs, judging by the blinking lights. Close encounters of the third kind? No, close encounters of the HS2 kind, the new £100 billion rail link making itself seen across the canals of the Midlands. That is £30 billion more than the costs to date of the entire Artemis space mission to the Moon. Here's a nice chap who's a viewer of my videos.
Hi David, how you doing? Good to see you, mate.
As you go round the corner, one of the temporary construction bridges comes into view. Just behind it, all white concrete and steel rebar at the moment, is the new rail line itself. What a bizarre juxtaposition with the ancient brick canal bridge that immediately follows. You are, mercifully, back into the green countryside again quite swiftly. I think this may once have been a swing or lift bridge over the canal. More lovely viewers of my vlog, hello again to you.
Hello, nice to see you.
Oh look, someone's been mowing the towpath. If it wasn't obvious from the path, the cuttings in the water are a dead giveaway. There's a house behind those trees, and it seems to have its own private footbridge. You know you've made it when you have your own footbridge. Isn't this just lovely? It's cruising like this that makes canal boating what it is, a glorious escape from the world. I think we have found the grass cutters. They did stop when I went past, which is appreciated. I was making gentle progress. In fact, this lamb would likely have overtaken me in a race. Being a sheep is exhausting. I think Commander Rikers had a go at that seat. If you can't stretch to a full canal boat, something like this would be great fun on a summer's day, especially with that electric motor for silent cruising. A flapping bird was overhead, but what sort is it? A less active bird was awoken by my passing. After quite some miles of there being nowhere to moor, unless you have mooring pins, which for some inexplicable reason I do not, there was finally a stretch of metal piling. The first boat in the line had a very unusual tender tied to it. Bridges 136A and 136 mark you coming into Fenny Compton, where there's a well-known and popular pub on the canal side, the Wharf Inn. I would be having my supper there later. You also have boaters' facilities and a winding hole, so no surprise this is a busy spot. It seems to be a hangout for unusual canal boats though. Look at that! You may recall I'd planned to get to Bridge 138, which is about 45 minutes further on, but the gap here seemed to be calling me, so I stopped. My tiny boat fit perfectly between two of the provided mooring rings. And yes, I'm aware that rope is fraying. Also, I'm trying the much suggested idea of a bulldog clip to keep the back doors together. It's working well. At supper time I decided to try the pub, so wandered down the towpath, having checked they could fit me in. It's fairly standard British pub restaurant inside, and I had a view of the outside space from where I sat. Very prescient of them though to label the table with my personality type. Here's the menu for the first course. I went with barbecue chicken and chips, and yes, there was cheese on it as well. Obviously, I looked at the desserts menu and ordered the brownie, which was nice but had a tragically small blob of ice cream served with it. Every restaurant does this. It annoys me a lot. That was me done for the day. The next morning, I'd complete my journey to Cropredy Marina. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.